back to the Human Challenge, where we explore all of the human challenges in today's world, the challenges of being human, and how we can challenge ourselves to be more human for the greater good. I'm your host, Vanessa Flano, and today we learn of a budding Hollywood friendship between two pretty boys and their upcoming project. Super excited to be joined by Matt Edwards, screenwriter and jack of all trades actor known for his online debut, Parker the Vampire, and Hollywood actor Doug Jones from his incredible performances in Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, Hocus Pocus, Hellboy 1 and 2, Star Trek, and Fantastic Four, which sadly I've not seen any of those. I'm so sorry.
But... So good. Neither has my family.
I've seen all of them, and I can give you the plot of every single one.
Oh, see how he is.
We'll never miss out. Well, I'm super pumped you're both here. And I was saying to you earlier, Doug, I'm super grateful you're here because when Matt shared the very heartwarming story of how you guys met, I was like, I'm not sure how much I believe this. And so I think it's good to kind of have you here to fact check this really beautiful Hallmark story. and really how it led to your new project, Pretty Boys. So Matt, why don't you share with us a little bit about this story? And then, Doug, you can tell us, you can verify it for
us.
Another
perspective, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up watching Doug when I was a little kid. In my teen years, Doug was on the big screen. I think I went to go see Hellboy 2 in the theaters. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know that it was comic book related or anything like that, but I immediately fell in love with his character, Abe Sapien, and I've just been a fan of his since I was little. And then I think years later, there's a show that's wrapping up its final season, What We Do in the Shadows, that kind of became a comfort show to me during the pandemic because it was just so silly and so funny and about vampires. And I decided to make this little short called Parker the Vampire that was just a character in the universe of that world. I put it online. It did really, really well. And I think that's when Doug and I became aware of each other, or we saw each other online, and there was some love exchanged in the DMs, and it was I remember very distinctly seeing a comment, I think, from him on the scene that I had done, and then I freaked out and was like texting some of my best friends, "Oh my God, Doug Jones!" And then yeah, he reached out, and then that was it at the moment. And then I think just a few days later, you were hosting a little show at the Dynasty Typewriter, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna go! I'm just gonna go and go see Doug." And of course, there was a long line of adoring fans outside after the show, and I think that's when Doug and I connected, and then I think I never asked Doug of anything. I think he just said, "Let's go get lunch," as the warm, kind man he is. And that's kind of where our relationship started, and just became a little bit of a budding friendship at the diner. And we'd talk for hours, and then from there, I think I just decided, yeah, maybe we should make something together. But yeah.
But yeah, I think you can understand why I wouldn't believe some of that story. I was like, what? You just went to lunch with Doug Jones? What? So
I can verify this story. Like, yeah, I can verify. He tagged me in that post on that video online with his spoof of What We Do in the Shadows, and so of course I watch what I'm tagged in if I have time, and the production value of it looked exactly like our show. I don't know where you found that set, and then he played this vampire who was like disgusted by the sight of blood, and that was just a very funny concept, right? And he played it so truthfully and so honestly. I was like, he's really good, and this is really funny. So of course I connected and made commentary, and we had a nice little back and forth. And then he mentioned the Dynasty Typewriter. That's the name of an improv theater in Los Angeles. I was hosting an improv show with the regular troupe there. They usually have like a guest that comes in to host, every week. So that was my week. I put it online like, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to be at the show if you want to come see." So afterward, I did a little meet and greet out in the hallway, and he was one of the last people. I think he waited until last in line, Matt. because I finally connected and talked to you out on the curb because we were kicked out of the theater, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And we talked, and when you've been an actor for 38 years, like I have, you get a lot of people that want something from you. It's like, hey, I got this script, or hey, do you know so and so? Can you get me in touch with so and so? Can you, like a lot of like gimme, gimme, gimmes. And here stands this very tall, handsome drink of water that looks like he could be my son, for crying out loud, right? With a very earnest smile and these
Oh,
sparkly eyes. And he was just like wagging his tail like a puppy. And I'm like, who is this kid, right? I love him. And he talked about, just he was a writer and had some ideas and just wanted to connect. And so I was like, you know what? Let's do lunch. So we went to
oh.
my favorite place, which is the NoHo Diner in North Hollywood. Love them there. It's like an old school, like 1959 diner that's never updated its look. And it's got pictures of actors all over the walls. I'm on there now myself. So I thought, well, we'll take him to my favorite place. And we ended up talking for hours.
Oh.
And he was spitting out his ideas about, things that he had written and things that he wanted to write. And we were talking about like, oh, how fun would it be to play father and son sometime? So then next time we had lunch, I remember him coming up like, okay, so I got this idea. He'd been working on it. Yeah. So one of them was a science fiction project that I thought was one of the most brilliant ideas I've ever heard. I'll let I'm not going to spoil that, but and that I would show up at the end somehow. But then the other one was this Pretty Boys idea, and it's like, wow, because we're both. He wrote characters for us, it kind of in the place we're both at in our real lives.
Mm.
So they're characters that are very easy to click into, and already having a fatherly feeling toward Matt, it just like, well, this sounds like a no-brainer. I would love to do this.
Aw. Wow. So that is fact checked and verified by Doug
Okay.
Jones. Wow.
I was on
That's
the hot seat
amazing.
there for a little bit there. Yeah.
No, that's so great. I love that story. It's so beautiful. It's so touching. And I mean, yeah, like Matt, when I met you, Matt, like you have an energy that I was like, yeah, like you just have such a good energy about you. And so, of course, Pretty Boys is coming to fruition. Of course, you're close to raising all the money you need because you just vibrate at that level. Like I feel it, and so I'm super happy. But so tell me a little bit, how did you, Doug mentioned the characters you wrote are really about where you guys are, and like, so what was how did you come up with the idea, and what came into it to creating Pretty Boys after your meeting with Doug?
Yeah, sure. I think really what it comes down to is, Doug and I were both kind of sharing stories about our pursuit in the entertainment industry and all the pitfalls and all of the things that we've come up against. And obviously, Doug for a much longer time, but just so many amazing stories that I really resonated with. And I think, but we both connected on this idea of wanting to feel validated. And that was something Doug had mentioned when he had first started out as an actor, wanting to feel that sense of validation. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to become an actor too. And Doug is just such a sweet, wholesome man and would never hurt a fly. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you've heard any flies, Doug, but I imagine you haven't. But but this character that I came up with for Doug, his name is Bob Silver, and he is this movie star who's been around for a while. But it's more of an extreme of these lengths that we go to feel validated, where Bob is kind of self-obsessed, and it's so that's where the comedy kind of comes from in this story of this father who's just so hell-bent on succeeding and kind of rebooting his career and keeping things going. And I'm kind of almost similar to him, but also not, in the sense that I wanted to feel validated, but never felt accepted by him or by Hollywood. And so I've kind of shunned that away. And I feel that way sometimes as I continue to pursue that career. And I've worked really hard and I've pounded the pavement, and I've had so many coaches and mentors tell me to slow down and stop trying so hard and working so hard. And it's that kind of dynamic of the father and son both holding on to this thing that they both need to let go of and sort of turn towards each other and see the value in their relationship. So yeah, I kind of just that's all sprouted out of my head. I think, yeah, after a couple of meetings with Doug, and I was kind of scared at first when Doug said, if I ever had a son, he'd probably look something like you, and I'd love to play your dad in something someday. And I didn't know what to write. So I think for a few months, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Got this other thing I gotta write. I don't know. So I think for a while I was kind of terrified at the thought of it. But then, yeah, now we're here and we're about $1,000 away from being funded, and it's incredible. So yeah, I'm very, very thankful for it.
That's amazing. And that's very relatable, these ideas of validation and acceptance. And
Mm.
even kind of like, I think in my own journey going through life, even the difference between validation and acceptance, and like what parts of me seek validation, what parts of me are seeking acceptance. And so I think that's a very relatable topic. And I in particular like it that it's geared towards, it's just two men, and I personally, when I go through media, entertainment, and a lot of content, I don't typically come across a lot of content that is really encouraging men to have these conversations, to talk about things, to even celebrate having that level of awareness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I think that's really, really awesome, and I'm really happy that you're there's the comedic relief, but there is kind of a bit of a deeper sense here, a deeper conversation that could be had from this movie.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. And the this father-son relationship in Pretty Boys starts off with us estranged. So we've had some history, and young Bobby has kind of like walked away from me pushing him into the showbiz when he was a kid and wanting him to be, to follow the family business basically. And he kind of walked away from it going, la, 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 yeah, I don't want it. So this movie starts with me coming after him for a little revival of that. I'm doing it under the pretense that I want to reconnect with him, but it's really for selfish
Mhm.
reasons. Like, because my career is kind of sort of on the decline, and I kind of want to get him back into it so that we can get some press going and blah, 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 the whole thing. So, yeah, that feeling of estrangement and reconnection, and something fake starting it, but something genuine coming out of it. That's the part of the story I really, really loved.
Right. And what about I really like that too. And I think it just goes from the whole idea of making something almost intangible, making it a little bit more tangible. And I think that those are really, really touching and very powerful stories. And so I'm curious, are there any experiences or any part of you that you kind of drew from like a men's mental health perspective that
Mhm.
that really maybe just sort of came up or arose as you were writing, and or found its way into the film in some way, or any experiences that you were able to touch on in terms of being able to write this work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for myself, I struggled with depression and when I was younger, and it was definitely a period of my life that I look back on much more fondly now because I've seen sort of the growth that I've experienced, kind of working through some of the mental health challenges that I had. And this story is kind of, in a lot of ways, a reflection of all of the things that I think a lot of men go through in terms of relationships, in the sense that we want to be loved, we want to be understood, we want to feel valued in the world, but oftentimes we feel like we can't voice that, or we can't voice, what we're going through. And I think for Bob's character, like Doug's character, Bob, you're interchangeable, your names.
I know.
Funny for me because I've been writing and rewriting. Um, but just this idea of being so hyper fixated and hyper focused on a specific thing that I need outside of myself to feel whole and to feel good,
Mhm.
um, is something that I deeply have struggled with and continue to struggle with. And I think a lot of men go through this. And I think the beautiful thing is when men get together and talk to each other about this in a very open, meaningful way, I think that's when it creates like that dynamic where healing can happen. So I think in that sense, that's where it kind of relates to men's mental health, and also just this relationship between a father and son, and how important that is to hold on to that, even if you don't agree. And especially in the world right now, how, divided we can be in certain areas, connection can still trump all of that. No pun intended with that word, but connection can, really be the most important thing.
You know, talking about relatable storylines. My dad passed away when I was 18, and a massive heart attack that just took him out with no warning. And so you can imagine, like, I was just at that point where dad is so stupid and knows nothing, and I was finishing my freshman year of college, about to go into finals week when I got that phone call. And we were just on the point where, I had moved away. I was living in a dorm on campus. And the farther you get away from your situation, you can look back and go like, maybe he wasn't so stupid after all. We were just getting to that point of reconnecting again after my teenage angsty years, and he was taken away from me. So I had a lot to work out, right? You can imagine the daddy issues I've dragged in my adult life with me. So he was very much he was a very strict disciplinarian. He had a military background. He was an entrepreneur. He started his own business, and was very successful as a like a business consultant to a bigger industry. He was also started a church in our house. He was just and he also was in public local politics. He was in the Indiana state legislature as a state representative for like 10 years. So he was like a go-getter, doer, and he drove himself to an early heart attack, right? So I watched a very stressful man end his life too soon. So I learned, like, okay, I don't want to be that when I grow up, right? And I also don't want to be defined by my work. So and men in America, especially for some reason, are very like Matt was just saying, very external things help define us, and we let that happen too much, I think. How much money do you make? What kind of car do you drive? How big of a show can you put on for everybody around you? And that makes you the man that you should be. And so I'll tell you, well, I had an experience, got back in 1995. I did a movie over in Romania. It was called The Adventures of Galgameth. It played on the Disney Channel, I think. I was a big monster. I was Galgameth, and like 50 feet tall. But we filmed outside of Bucharest, the city, in a smaller village, a town called Bufta. And these local Romanian people, there's a different culture, they would remind you of Italians. Very like, come here, nah, nah, huggy,
Go
touchy.
eat have some sauce.
Yes. Like, women that wanted to feed the skinny guy, and and men who just wanted to hug me and sit on my lap and let's have a chat. It was the most, oh my gosh, I think I'm Romanian. I felt so at home there. And didn't realize, what I'd been missing so much. And then coming back to America after that 3-month shoot, I was like, wow, men especially have something to learn from a culture like that, where we can be more expressive. And if you love someone, tell them. And if you have an issue with someone, well, tell them and work it out, instead of just being these islands that we're taught to be, right? So that I believe, but those are things that we want to work out for sure. And the story of Pretty Boys kind of helps touch on all of that for me personally. It's a nice little personal journey to work out those daddy issues.
Well, thank you so much both for sharing those perspectives and those stories, and I think that I appreciate hearing that, for myself, as a woman, obviously, we have lots of challenges as well when we navigate the world. But I think that, you hear these stories from men and it's like, well, it's all the same thing. We all want the same thing. We're all looking for the same thing. And then how can we, Matt, you're talking about being the division that we sometimes are in. How can we actually just come together, because we all have these same needs, the same desires, and the same experiences, really, just in our own lived context, right? And so I really appreciate hearing that so much. And lastly, I just want to make some space if there's any other Pretty Boys. I think, when are you aiming to start filming? I feel like it's end of this year, maybe, or next year. I can't remember now.
Tentatively December is when we're hoping to shoot. But Doug and I are both busy and things come up, so we'll see if we can make that happen. But we will be shooting, if not the end of the year, hopefully early at the beginning of 2025.
Awesome. And so now, what's happening then between now and shooting for you guys? Any other exciting projects on the go?
Well, can I jump in?
Of course.
Yeah, no, a very long in the works movie. I just had a version of Nosferatu come out. Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, with me in the title character of Count Orlok, also known as Nosferatu. It's a vampire role that appealed to me way long ago, and he was kind of like my bucket list character I always wanted to play. So I finally got the chance to do that. And it was an independently produced thing that was started like 9 years ago. So it took a long time to get it to the screen, but it's finally out, and it's unfortunately timed with within 2 months of the opening of the other Nosferatu movie, directed by Robert Eggers and starring Bill Skarsgård in the same character as me. He's younger, more hotter, more famous, whatever. But actually, to be honest, I'm very excited to see that movie as well. I think we can't have enough vampires in the month of October and yeah, and beyond. But our director, David Lee Fisher, created a really artistic piece. It's going to be very different from the other Nosferatu. Ours is a scene for scene playing out of the silent film from 1922 that you saw. Only ours has new actors, dialogue, sound, and a musical score that the old movie did not have. And so but it is very true to the old story. It stays very true to that scene for scene story that was told, but with dialogue that helps flesh out what that story is. And and a lot of green screen was used, and every scene had a green screen element to it. It's where the old movie was then put in with us somehow. So whether it was an outdoor scene, it was completely green screen, and they digitally mapped in the entire outdoor set, or indoors. We might have furniture, a bed, a wall, and then a window or a door that had green behind it with old movie put in there. So there was something. It's a very much a bow and an homage to the original film, and even the performances of all the actors was done in a vintage kind of style, where we were a bit overdone, but kind of on purpose, and hopefully finding some truth in it though at the same time. And my co-stars Emrys Cooper and Sarah Carter are both young, beautiful people that pulled it off beautifully. Sarah was the object of my desire. I'm the vampire that was after her, and I pulled her into the project because she and I were co-stars together on a TV series called Falling Skies about 10 years ago. And I asked her, like, this is going to be different for you. Do you want to do it? She's like, yes. So very excited. She's absolutely mesmerizing in this movie. So it's available now on Amazon Prime. And October 18th and beyond, it'll be on Apple TV as well. And I think it's also going to be on Fandango, Roku, other places. So, but for now, Amazon Prime and Apple TV are the two hot spots to find it. And also What We Do in the Shadows. Speaking of, I'm having a vampire month. What We Do in the Shadows that we were talking about earlier. I've a recurring role of Beto Nafanas, this like way overdone. He's kind of the Nosferatu kind of character of that show. He's the old school vampire that like has sent his minion vampires to the New World to conquer North America, and they've never made it out of Staten Island. It's a very funny premise. So he's come to check on them, and he's taken up residence with them in Staten outside the city. So I come back. I've been a recurring character on the show for all 6 seasons. So season 6, the final season, is about to start airing October 21st on FX channel and Hulu. And the Baron will return for a few more episodes of goofery tomfoolery.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's a very busy month for you then. That's pretty insane. And
Well,
I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you add to that Hocus Pocus 1 and 2 are re-airing on the Freeform channel all month for their 31 Nights of Halloween. This is my time of year, because as Billy Butcherson from Hocus Pocus, that's just everyone's childhood comes back in the month of October. It's really a sweet thing that happens every year.
Amazing. So this must be like, is Pretty Boys going to be you like the first time stepping out of costume?
No, but not the first time, but I've been playing humans all along. But in the past year and a half since Star Trek Discovery ended, and I took rubber off for the last time, I've been playing nothing but humans for the last year and a half. And so I've been really enjoying indies and shorts and anything I can get my face into that if it sings to me, if the character and and the director and the co-stars sing to me, which this project absolutely does, as
Oh,
we've talked about. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. And Matt, how can we support Pretty Boys and get you to the money that you need so this can happen?
yeah, you guys are welcome to check out prettyboysfilm.com. So it will just take you right over to our landing page. We're pretty confident that we have another week left raising funds, and we're just so excited to do this with Doug. And it's just been such an amazing experience getting to know Doug and be a part of this with him. So and I've also grown so much just in the last year in terms of learning how to produce something on my own, and I've been writing for a while, and I know my screenwriting mentors and teachers are very proud of me for putting something out there into the world. But this will be, I think, the first time. Well, the Parker thing technically was, but this is the first time I think I'm making a full, short with my name on it. So I'm just excited to do it, and really thankful to Doug. And yeah, so again, it's prettyboysfilm.com. You guys can check out our page, our little pitch video we did which was really fun, and some other info about our story and what we're planning to do.
Thank you so much. And I will say I've been on the site. It's so great. And I'm really excited for this film. I think it's going to be
Oh, thank
awesome.
you.
And I'm going to drop all the links in the description as well. So everybody can go ahead, check out the page. And I know it's been so successful. I mean, I remember in the first few days after you released, you had already had almost like $10,000 or something. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, it was wild. So, I mean, you're definitely going to hit it. I'm super pumped. And I feel very proud almost. I'm just a podcast host, but like, I feel very proud, like hearing the story. I'm like, oh, like what? This is just beautiful. So,
Thank you, Vanessa.
thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. And like I said, I'll drop everything in the links.
Well, thanks for having us so much.
Thank you.